welcome back to the pirate campaign.
Arr.
When we last left the lot of you, you had made your escape from Freeport, had spent your first night on board your brand new home, which is a airship called the Argonaut. You'd awakened in the morning and started your first tasks, which, after your impressive display of combat, was to train your new shipmates in both melee and also to learn how to use the cannons, as the captain was certain that the attackers of Freeport weren't just going to let the refugees escape without a fight. That proved to be a relatively accurate statement, in that a fast brig has caught up with you and engaged you in battle. So far, they have obviously not done too well for themselves, as your cannoneering skills have been exceptional, and you've started several fires on the ship, and one of you managed to pull off a shot like none other and executed the enemy captain by cannonball. We're naming no names here. The battle is still raging. You've got sailors from the enemy ship boarding yours, and the captain of your ship has actually launched a boarding action of his own, jumping onto the enemy ship with a group of sailors who are now fighting a melee combat, and battle is raging around you. Most of the civilians are doing the right thing and keeping below decks, and the rest of you have just fought off the first bunch of sailors that had tried to get aboard, and now sort of taking a brief moment's respite to sort of gauge the situation around you. And that's where we will start you off, I believe. So none of you are initially in combat just yet. You've beaten off the boarders that attacked your cannons, but there is now a general brawl going across both ships, which are now snug side to side, tied with ropes, and there is all-out combat going on. If you look around the enemy ship, most of the sailors seem to be either attempting to get across onto yours or clustered around the center of the ship, which seems to be where the hatches possibly to below decks are. The crew of your ship are very defensive and are doing their best to stop any of the enemy sailors from getting below, apart from a small group of 5 or 6 brave souls who have dashed along with the captain onto the enemy ship. And with that, I will let you all make a free action before I ask you all to roll initiative.
Wait, a free action?
Yep.
Could that be an attack?
It may, depending on what you're using. Melee attacks probably aren't going to do too well with no one directly next to you.
Fair.
I think I know what Bhajiri is going to do. So considering that he's murdered, or part murdered, some of the people who were grappling the ships together,
Yep.
upon seeing the captain now going onto the enemy ship, he's going to be like, probably should keep the ships together. And he's going to try and, if there's no resistance, ensure that the ships stay together as best as he can.
Yep, you can basically spend an couple of actions doing that. So Bhajiri will just rush to the nearest of the ropes and hooks that are tying the two ships together and start trying to wrap them around to ensure that they're completely secure. So you start the process of looping it around, getting ready to knot it.
Nice.
I have a question. Is
Yep.
there anybody? I can't remember if we. I think I was with Flaley McFlaley that
Yep.
last remembrance, and I can't remember if we managed to kill off the people attacking us or not, or if we still have some left alive.
For the sake of ease, you'll have defeated the ones that are directly near you.
Fantastic. Okay. In which case, I'll think on what Tarin does. Somebody else have a go.
And let me delete that. And that. Anyone else want to? Just saw that gif. Anyone else want to take the opportunity to either move about the ship that you're on? I did actually place a map for you in the chat, and I will pin it for easy access. So you were all up against the side of the ship. Most of your crewmates are sort of clustering around the various hatches, trying to prevent any waters getting below. The enemies that are rushing aboard are making a concerted effort to get below decks. They seem to be less interested in trying to clear the decks of enemies first and more in getting below.
Ooh. In which case, can Tarin have noticed this and go towards a hatch to try and like defend it?
Yep.
Okay, that will be his stance, I think.
Yep. So you've got 3 hatches, one in the dead center of the ship, one towards the front, and one back close to the captain's cabin at the rear of the ship.
Which one are they all aiming for, or is it about equal?
It's roughly equal. They obviously are roughly aware of the design of the ship that they're attacking, so they know to split their efforts to try and get basically the defenders to do the same.
Oh, okay. In which case, I will go towards the hatch, which is nearest to me.
Yep. So from memory, you were up one end of the ship, so I will say you're probably actually closest to where both the captain's quarters and the rear hatch are.
All right, okay. Go there then.
Yep. Awesome. Oh, and we have a bingo now in chat.
Hi.
Excellent.
Welcome, Boom Boom.
Hi. Hi.
The voice will get better over the next few minutes.
Rightio. Bingo.
Hello.
Can I get you to roll a dexterity check, and if you've got it, stealth.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Okay. 1 second.
It's not a good idea when, like, the explosive gnome kobold thingy snakes.
I am just rolling d6s, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So 3 d6s, and hopefully one that you can identify.
Okay. So, well, dexterity.
Yep.
12.
12. Righty. Oh, noted.
For the stunt points, did you get any doubles, like 2 3s, for example, with
No.
identical? No? Okay.
No.
Rightio. So Bingo was with the rest of you when the two ships fought and first engaged and was operating one of the cannons. However, as the ships came together, our enterprising Bingo, as the enemies boarded your ship, actually managed to slip aboard theirs.
I'm so oh.
Bingo, you were actually on the first deck of their ship. You've managed to get below. To your knowledge, you weren't seen as you snuck aboard, thinking that they were all too busy with the larger folk and the cannons.
Okay.
You figured that it was probably the best opportunity you were going to get to sneak around and see what else was on their ship.
Okay. I like it.
So the ship that the enemy is on is roughly the same design as yours, with only a few largely cosmetic differences.
Mm-hmm.
So it has two decks, or two main decks. So the one you're on would be mostly mess halls, crew quarters. Some of the cannons will have been located along this part of the deck as well. You're aware that usually you'd probably find the more interesting stuff on the next level down.
I'll go down there. Interesting how. Let me clarify. Interesting how.
In that either valuable stuff or explosive stuff tends to be at the bottom of the ship.
Okay. I'll go down there.
Can do. So you're going to wander off down the halls, trying to keep out of sight of any sailors that are still below decks as you make your way towards the next hatch. So Bhajiri's tying stuff. We've got Tarin rushing to the defense. Let's see. Edric, you were contemplating attacking someone, I believe, from memory.
Yes. I think I'd like to find a spot higher up if possible first.
So the spots that you can see quite clearly that would make sense to be sniper posts are you've got basically where the captain and the helmsman stand on your ship. It's raised above decks basically to allow the captain and the helmsman a better view of what's in front. Kind of useful when you're trying to dock these kinds of vessels. There is also a raised section in the... Let me pull the map back up. There we go. Up towards the front of the ship as well. You could also imagine that if you had the time and no one was going to be aiming anything at you, possibly spend your time trying to climb up towards the balloon and basically hang up in the ropes and basically netted ladders that lead up to the balloon for maintenance purposes.
I'd like to get... So from the captain's spot, you can see most of the deck as well, right?
You can see most of your deck, apart from areas where there is... so there's like a bit of a cabin structure in the center near the main hatch, and that does block view a little bit. Onto the enemy ship, you can see most of the main deck as well.
I'd like to take the captain's spot then.
Yep, so you go up on the poop deck.
And from there, are there any important looking guys?
I will get you to roll perception for that.
no stunt points,
Yep.
but a total of 14.
14. You see, the only really important people that you can see are actually your own officers. On the enemy ship and on your own ship, it is just a massive brawling. It is actually kind of hard to see who's in charge of the opposing forces, especially since they seem to be almost desperate at this stage. I will actually get them to roll that. Some of them look like they're almost panicking.
Good.
Rightio, Wisp and Merrisea, did you want to do anything with your free actions before we get initiative rolled? And then I can start walking you through Bingo's adventures below decks and yours above decks.
Merrisea said, "Be right back." Phone call a while back, and I'm assuming she's
missed
not
that.
yet back.
Yep. These gifts are beautiful. Alrighty then.
Just seen that one.
So, Wisp, do you wish to join the defences, board the enemy ship? Just casually wave at everyone.
I'll join the defenses.
Rightio. So, off the top of my head, you were actually up towards more the front of the ship, as you were one of the lead cannons. I really should.
Merrisea with me. You're coming with me.
So you make your way towards the forward hatch. So at the opposite end of the ship to both Tarin and Edric. Rightio. With that, roll initiative. And as a quick reminder, that's just 3 dice plus your dexterity.
And you can't stunt on initiative, right?
Nope.
Ow. Why am I so clumsy today?
Right, here. Oh wow. That was a 7 for Bhajiri. 19 for Edric.
How are you guys getting such high numbers?
Tarin's 15.
7's not that high. Oh, okay. That makes us feel better.
Bingo is going to be taking a lot of time to think about what he is doing. Yeah.
All things considered, probably not a bad idea.
Tarin missed one number.
I missed one. I thought I was only 3 dice.
3 dice plus your dexterity.
Oh, my dexterity is 4.
Alright,
So
so
I've got
that's
19.
19.
Nice.
Edric, what's your dexterity?
3.
Alright, that puts Tarin first.
Oh, bollocks.
That moment when you don't want to fight first. Although you could technically pick the hold your action.
The what reaction? Oh.
Like, you could technically hold your action, I believe.
Yes, you can. That is...
Which means that you can choose to not attack yet until specific thing A happens.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah. That's a good idea. We'll see how it goes when it starts.
Right. Oh, whoops. There we go.
You never know. The enemies might have a higher initiative.
True. But then we'll kill them afterwards.
That's true.
Yar!
Oh, hang
Arr!
on. 4, 6, 8.
Preferably in the most painful way we can find.
But of course.
If it's not painful, what's the point?
We're still talking about killing people, right?
Yep.
Sure, here we are.
That too.
Strange lust demon you. Sure we are.
Rightio. That, I think, is everyone's rolls. Let me just put double X's in those mugs busy doing something at the moment. Rightio. That brings us to me redoing my math because I'm an idiot.
I love that it rhymes.
1, 2,
Well, it's from a song actually.
3,
Illstorm is a great
4.
band for pirate songs.
I see. I'll have to look them up.
6.
I freaking love them.
I think I listened to one of their songs earlier in the week and I was just like, yes, I need to look at these people when I'm less busy.
9.
I have all of their songs downloaded to my phone from
Rightio.
Spotify.
Okay, and I will just mark X's in with Merrisea until she's able to join us. There we go. That said and done, first up in the turn order is still Tarin.
Joy! Well, since, like, I don't think there are any enemies actually, like, imminent to where I am at the moment, what I'll do is I'll do something very boring and just get into, like, a defending position.
Yep.
Because I have no other knowledge other than to just kind of flail and point and stab things. So I'll get into defensive position and wait for somebody to run at me, basically.
Yep. So you've rushed on over to the defenders, kind of realised that you've thrown yourself probably in a little deeper than you intended, and you've just sort of rejoined the defensive line and hope knowing that none of the enemy sailors decides to take a stab at you.
Sorry, I missed that. It's cutting in and out again. I don't know if it's my computer or not.
Let me know if that
Going
keeps
for me
up.
a little bit as well.
Right here. I will... Hopefully that helps. So you've rushed across deck, realised that you've bitten off probably a little bit more than you can chew, and just, rather than attacking any of the sailors, just darted into the defensive line and turn around to just defend yourself with your weapons up.
Fantastic.
Rightio, that brings us to number 2 in the list, Edric.
Yes.
So you've made your way up to the poop deck and you set yourself up with a vantage of both decks. You can't see anyone specifically important amongst the enemies, but you can see a number of enemies rushing onto your ship. You count at least 10, maybe 15 trying to get aboard, and the rest of the crew are on the enemy ship. Your best guess was that this is probably all they've got left.
Okay, I'm gonna shoot the one that's closest to the hatches.
Yep, so the nearest ones will actually be just below you on the poop deck, right near where Tarin rushed to, which is the closest hatch to the captain's cabin.
Okay. I want to shoot his face off.
Right, so you target the first sailor that you see amongst that fight, and...
I should specify,
I missed that.
I use my daddy to shoot his face off.
Go for it.
That's 2 stunt points. And a grand total of 14.
14, just double check. Oh, it was those ones, wasn't it? Interesting. Yeah, that just hits.
Nice. Well, I'm actually shoot his face off. For about as low damage as I can shoot. Well, a little over that. 9 damage.
9 damage. I'll double check his armor. And noted. Yep. You take aim at a sailor who is fighting one of your defenders, and as you pull the trigger, he sort of ducks slightly out of the way to dodge an incoming blow from a cutlass, and you still manage to hit him and graze him, but it's nowhere near what you were expecting.
Okay. I'll just go, oh, shucks.
Rightio. You haven't moved from that position, so you've actually got a minor action, so... were you using any of your stunt points, or...
Oh, yeah, I have 2 stunt points. I forgot to use them.
I am a fair, divine being.
I'd like
you poorly.
I'd like to reload my reload.
Rapid reload? Oh, also, I will remind rogues you've got a special ability. Don't forget it.
Ooh, was his dexterity lower than 3?
No.
Okay. In that case, I'll just not use that. Like, that ability doesn't make any difference. But
Yep.
I use my skirmish to blow him back to you.
Yep. So he's realized that he's taken a hit from someone shooting at him, and he's actually staggered backwards, slightly out of melee with the person he's fighting with, which actually provokes an opportunity attack.
Ooh. Wait, so I get an opportunity attack against him?
The guy he was fighting does,
Ah.
and the guy that's fighting hit. Not for a spectacular amount of damage, but he still managed to do a hit. So not only has this sailor dodged out of the way, or attempted to dodge from further fire, he's managed to allow an opening that got him slashed up across the chest at the same time.
Nice. I'll give that guy that slashed his chest open, I'll give him a big thumbs up. And then just the rapid reload to reload my gun as well.
Yep. Next up, we have... Right. So your captain on the enemy ship is dueling a group of sailors and seems to be, at the moment, holding his own. Next up behind him... I did math that properly, right? Yep. Oh, right. Wonderful. Is all the enemy crew.
Oh, shit.
All of them.
Every single one.
That said, the ones that are going for the hatches, those that are near them and defending them, are going to get attacked. So that's going to be attacks currently on Tarin and... who else was there? Whisp was there from memory. They will also make an attempt to engage you, Bhajiri. If I don't drop my dice in random places. Right, so the first one is up against Tarin, and I am going to blatantly presume that a 10 doesn't hit.
No.
Alright. So one of them makes an attempt to attack you and fails miserably. The one attacking Wisp does a 13 hit.
What am I checking against?
Your defense off the top of my head.
Yeah.
15.
Was that 15? Right, this one misses massively as well. You see this coming from a mile away and just sort of sidestep slightly, and you just watch his axe sail past you and hit the deck. Bhajiri. One of them has rushed up to attack you and does a 14 hit you.
Unfortunately, it does.
No.
Rightio. Let me just double check what these guys are armed with. Yep.
Hey, welcome back.
Hey, how's it going?
Rightio. Bhajiri, the one that's just rushed up and attacked you with a boarding axe, did 7 points of damage.
Ooh, so I've got 6 armor, so that means I take 1 damage, right?
Yep.
That's the first damage I've taken.
To be honest, I think that's the first damage anyone's taken from combat.
Didn't Mug take damage?
Oh,
in
actually,
the fight
yes,
in the-
Mug did.
Yeah.
With the brawl. Rightio. That is, by and large, their attempts against you lot. And... Right, the ones on the central hatch didn't make any major gains. The ones fighting the group near Tarin are really, really struggling. And the ones up near Wisp... Okay, then. So, up at the very front of the ship, you hear a shout, and some of the sailors have managed to actually push through the defensive line and are rushing below deck. And, yep, I will pop you into initiative, Prissity.
Thank you.
Wait, Aplicity?
Sorry, I just read the name that was there.
Oh,
Merrisea.
sorry, I need to change it now.
It's all good.
Interdimensional gnome elf.
Yep. Right, yeah. I will pop you in. Turn order there. So, the ones on the enemy ship are not doing all that well against the boarding party, and Bingo, you literally watch as a sailor steps out of a door, walks right past you carrying supplies up to the deck to... It looks like he's bringing up black powder charges for the rifles that he's got slung over his shoulder. He doesn't even pay any attention to the corner you're hiding in.
Right.
Can I play devil's advocate for a second, Glenn?
Yep.
So if this guy walks past Bingo,
Yep.
is that opportunity attack?
If Bingo wants to take it. Currently, Bingo is hiding.
That will become more difficult when you attack someone. They tend to notice you're there when you stab
I'm
them.
thinking I might just hide and try and blow up their own ship.
But don't blow you up.
I'll be fine, I'm little. I've survived like several explosions before. All I'm missing is a little finger. For now.
Next, all that will be left is a little finger.
Yeah.
Righty. That brings us up to, so that was their turn. You hear the chief gunner fighting amongst the central group, shouting for them to hold the line. That brings us now, in the turn order, up to the sailors that are with you lot and Flaley. So Flaley's going to try and attack the person that attacked Tarin.
Would that also be a Merrisea today? Like,
I've popped Merrisea into the order, so as it gets down to the last in the order, Merrisea can get a turn. Plus, remember, there is actually a words right now. Sorry, stunt that actually allows you to reorder yourself in the.
oh shit, there is.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
So don't forget that stunts can definitely impact fights, and if you use it at the right time, it gives you double turns.
Which one was that? Oh yeah, seize the initiative.
I have totally lost that. Flaley just does his usual and flails.
What? He flails a bit and then doesn't do anything.
Yep. The usual. The fighters, however, near Tarin do reasonably better.
Oh dear.
The ones at the centre do the same. And it looks like the ones at the front of the ship have managed to close the gap again, but you're almost certain there are people below decks.
Sorry, did you say there are people below decks, enemies below decks now?
You're certain that there are.
Okay.
You don't know how many, but you think there are. And I am just going to mark that. Rightio, that is all of that done, and we are now up to Wisp. So, Wisp, you saw a bunch of sailors push past a gap when one of your defenders got knocked clean on his backside and rushed down under the hatch. From your best bet, you're thinking about 2 or 3.
I'll pursue then.
Rightio. So you jump down, and as you land, you hear a shout, and there is one sailor currently blocking your path, and it appears that 2 are rushing down the hallways.
Well, I'll attack the person who's blocking my path then.
Go for it.
Have any weapons?
They appear to be armed with just cutlasses, boarding axes, regular melee style weapons.
Right.
They're not exactly the most heavily armored in the world. You'd imagine that would be because it would get in the way of them doing their tasks on a ship.
Am I quite close to them? Am I further away?
So the one that you've just jumped, you pretty much almost landed on him. He seemed to have been prepping to defend the hatch and wasn't quite expecting anyone to leap directly at him.
Right.
The other 2, however, are a lot further down the hall.
Okay. 3D then. No, no.
So if you're doing just a regular attack, that will
I think
be
give him a short sword.
can do.
One. Yeah. Right.
Also, if memory serves, don't forget if you're a rogue, don't forget you got pinpoint, I think is the name of the term.
Correct. Pinpoint attack.
Yep. And if memory serves, it's also once a round, so you can.
It's once a round, 1d6
Oh, no, I
of additional
forgot.
damage if you attack someone with a lower dex.
Yep.
Make that 12.
So 12. Let me just jump across to that one. Yeah, that one's going to hit.
One d6 plus 2. 8. Can I do pinpoint attack as well?
Yes, you can actually. This guy does not look like he's the spryest person. Built like an ox, but not very fast.
Boop its snoot with your sword.
I missed that for a second. I thought you said boop its snoot to the soul. Boop its soul.
Great.
Boop the soul.
Please do that as well.
It's only the decent thing to do.
Noted. Let me just pull up.
14.
So that was 14. He definitely wasn't expecting you to jump down, and you've kind of caught him flat-footed. He barely even manages to get his weapon up in time, and you've shot a blade directly past his guard and given him a really bad wound across his stomach.
Hell yeah.
Lovely.
Righty-o. That brings us up to...
$7.7 million. Sorry.
The timing of that could have been better. Bhajiri, you're up.
Excellent. So, someone thwacked me.
Yep. While you were busy trying to tie up a knot, he's rushed up.
Was the knot tied successfully, or?
You reckon it will hold for now, but it's not exactly your best work.
Okay. In that case, I almost said a very naughty word. I'm going to thwack that bad person back with my spear.
Go for it. So roll and attack.
Ooh, that's good numbers. So that is, I've got 2 stunt points with a 12 plus fighting, so 14 plus 2 from my
Yep.
spear focus.
That hits.
So that's 16 with 2 stunt points.
That hits. Roll your damage and use your stunts.
Lovely. Okie dokie. Because this is right at the edge of the ship, isn't this?
Yep, but the gap between the ships at this stage is pretty much only inches.
Well, because of my two-handed style, when I hit an enemy with a melee attack, I can move them up to 2 yards or 2 meters, whatever thing would it. Can I just knock this twat straight off the ship?
You can knock him back onto his own ship, but because the hulls are pretty much almost touching, there's not enough of a gap between the ships to knock him between them.
Okay, in that case, I am going to I'm going to knock him back onto his ship, and I'm going to use my 2 stunt points to disarm.
Go for it.
So we must make an opposed attack roll. So, okay. For the opposed attack roll, oh no, I just broke a 3D print. Sorry. For the opposed attack roll, I got a 15.
All right. Also, roll your damage for the attack.
Oh yes. How much? That's 2d6s. That's a solid 4 plus. Is it 4 plus strength, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a 7 because I've got 3 strength.
Rightio. So this guy's rushed up and tried to attack you from behind and nicked you at best, and you've reacted immediately, spun around, and just delivered a massive hit across his ribs and sent him flying backwards onto his own ship. You're pretty certain you broke a rib on the way.
Nice.
As he lands, his cutlass actually spins clean out of his hands, and he's just lying there for a second, stunned, before he pulls himself back up.
Bhajiri's just gonna smile at him and just like make eye contact with him, and then the tip of his spear, and then him, and then the tip of his spear.
Noted. Sorry, excuse me, I'm just eating dinner at the moment. The sailor scowls at you and looks at the tip of your spear and is sort of trying to edge ever so slightly towards his cutlass. That will bring us up to Bingo.
Oh.
So, in a moment of either inspiration or madness, you've dashed across onto the ship and below decks, and so far you believe you're unnoticed.
Mm-hmm.
You have a corridor running down the center of the ship, and currently 4 doors within easy reach, and it looks like there's another 2 up the back. You're going to presume that there may be a hatch down to the level below somewhere, but you're not 100% certain where it may be.
Okay. I will go to the second door on the left.
Second door on the left. Rightio. I will get you to roll a stealth if you're going to poke your head through.
Okay. What do I add for stealth?
It will be dexterity.
Okay. Okay. 18.
Rightio. You sort of crack the door open ever so slightly and gently ease it open without making any noise and stick your head just barely past the edge of the wood. In the room, you see a pair of the sailors rushing to load up pistols and gather up remaining weapons into what looks like a sack. The room itself appears to be what would be their armory. There's weapons along the walls, although a lot of the racks are relatively empty, as what should be occupying them appears to be very much in use up above decks. You see some barrels in a corner, and you see a couple of crates.
Ooh. Is this the kind of thing that would make it good to blow up the ship?
From your experience, there is a possibility there might be some gunpowder in there.
Okay. I will leave that for a moment and go to the door behind me, or wherever the other one on the right was.
Rightio. You make your way up to that, poke your head in. Largely you see just hammocks and bunks. There's it appears to be what would have been crew quarters. There's a lot of hammocks just sort of side by side. Presumably you could actually fit quite a large crew in there. There's a couple of like foot lockers sort of around the walls, and a few boxes and crates in the corners of the room that look to be storage. There's no one currently in the room by the looks of it.
Okay. There's no access down from this room then?
From what you can see, no.
Okay. I'll go to the next one on the right.
Righty. The next one on the right, you stick your head in. Once again, there's people in this room. I will get you to roll a perception check, but there is 2 of the humans on the ship in the room, and that will be a perception scene.
Yeah. 11.
Rightio. As far as you can tell, they're just regular sailors. They gathered around a table and looking at something. You can't quite see what it is from the door. But
Okay.
from what you can see, this is a mess hall. There's not an awful lot in there apart from a couple of benches that are effectively nailed to the floor to stop them moving, and tables. Up the other end, you can actually see a bit of a galley where you can cook and prep meals.
Okay. Okay, I'll go to the last door. That was 4, you said, right?
Yep.
Cool. Okay. Last time lucky.
Rightio.
Excellent.
stick
gift
your-
usage.
I need to see this gift now.
Excellent gift usage.
That was squeegee, if you wanted to know.
Rightio.
Nice work.
You stick your head in this one, and it's a much smaller room, and you do see a hatch that is currently closed but appears to be an access down below.
Oh, sweet. I'm gonna go down.
Sorry, I was chewing there. With that, you throw the hatch open ever so quietly and leap down below. And
Uh-oh.
said
See
and-
what I'm on.
that said and done, I'll actually leave you down there for a bit and jump to the next person in the queue. The suspense.
Hello.
That brings us to Merrisea.
She
What?
just went BRB phone call.
That's okay. Go on the train and tell them that. I don't know what.
Ah,
At least this isn't like space vegans again.
alrighty. We'll give Merrisea a little bit, and we'll return to bingo.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
bingo, you've leapt through the hatch.
Yeah,
And
whatever, it's fine
God,
as
that
long
is
as
the
you
most
get it on the train.
scratching gif. I will hide that. You've leapt through the hatch and slid down the ladder and landed below.
Okay.
You are now in a much, much larger room. This one, unlike the cabins above, seems to be largely storage built. There's lots of crates. There is lots of supplies down here. You can see further down a bunch of crates that are open topped. You vaguely make the shapes of cannonballs over there.
Oh.
You also see what appears to be
Yeah, I don't usually use the ticket
chains
machine,
along
but-
some sections of the walls and some large chests up the very, very other end of the room.
Ooh, treasure. Ooh. Okay, focus. Focus, bingo.
Oh,
I can
no.
do it.
What is it that it's not letting you do?
Okay, right. So I'm gonna look around and take stock of the situation. Quite literally, take stock.
Yep.
Right. I've got my
I
little
don't know. So there must be a man's
flamey
ticket
thingy with
office
me. My
somewhere.
little flint and whatever, so I can set fire to anything.
Yes, you
So,
can.
so as far as I'm
Yeah,
aware,
I don't
no
know
one else has come
what-
over onto the ship with me, have they? They've all been fighting back on ours.
From what you saw, the captain of your ship and a small group did rush across, and they were causing a distraction that allowed you to get aboard.
So currently the plan is
So, from what it looked like, the captain was trying to take control of this ship.
okay.
That sounds good.
He was making his way up to the other end towards the poop deck where the other captain of the ship would have been expected to be found.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
Would have
Yeah,
been
I don't do
expected.
peaceful negotiations. So, there's stuff down here that I can set on fire, correct?
You see lots of
Is it working?
wooden crates, and there's barrels and crates, open top crates, up near the large chests you see up the far end of the ship.
Okay. I want to go look at the treasure. I really want to go look at the
Sometimes it gives
treasure.
you
So I'm
the-
gonna go look at the treasure.
Probably I need to get in the sun, we don't.
As you sneak through, you don't seem to see anyone else down here.
So what?
You believe that the
Okay.
4 or
No
5
worries.
crew that were up above may be the only other souls below decks, the rest being above. And you make your way slowly, but as you realize you're alone down here, with less caution, up towards the chests.
Ah,
They come up effectively to your chin.
of treasure. Okay. How many are there?
There's 2 very, very large chests.
Okay, can I look at the one on my left?
Yep. So
Carefully.
you check out the chest slowly and then reach up and push back on the lid. It gives and moves, and you lift it up. Excuse me. There we go. Looking into the chest, you see coins. Lots of coins. You'd estimate there to be more coins than you could feasibly carry on you at any given point.
Yeah. But I can fill my pockets and my boots and my purse
That you can.
and my secret back pocket and the other secret pocket as well, and all my other pockets.
So you reach in and just start shoving coins into every space you can physically fit them. You even fill like your socks with coins.
Yeah.
That said and
I'm
done.
basically a little mouse full of coins.
You seriously at some point consider like just shoving them in your cheeks before you realize that you could possibly choke on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna resist eating the coins.
That said and done, you have managed to load onto yourself about 117 coins, all of them silver.
Hell yeah! That's just so I don't forget.
You guess that there would be at least maybe another 1,800 coins in there.
Ah, my future dreams of owning my own little workshop out in the countryside are flashing before my eyes. Man, I wish I had a bag of holding. Crap. I can't sink this ship, it's got too much treasure on it.
Oh.
Okay, I'm gonna look in the other chest.
You open that one, and it is exactly the same. It is filled to the brim with silver coins.
Ah! Is it silver as well?
Yep.
Okay.
You
Because if it was
presume
gold, I'm gonna have to like empty all the silver out and take the gold instead.
you presume you've just found the pay for every soldier that was on this ship.
God damn it! I can't sink this ship now. The two things I love: explosions and money. God damn it!
Right here. Do we have a Merrisea, or is it still BRB? I think it's
currently
BRB.
Well,
Alrighty.
she reappeared and then she disappeared again.
Yep. Right here. We'll leave Bingo with an existential crisis down below decks, and I'll jump back up to the turn order. And we'll slip Merrisea in when we can. Tarin, you're up.
Brilliant. So from what I remember, I'd slipped into the defensive line.
Yep. Someone had taken an attempt to hit you and missed. Flaily tried gallantly to leap to your defense and flailed miserably.
But of course, and you said we'd all noticed that there's a possibility that some people have got downstairs and below deck.
Wisp saw it.
okay.
You presume from the shouting that you heard that there was a good possibility that somehow someone's gotten below decks.
Right. Can I? What's the status of the hatch that I'm defending? If I were to go down, would it fall apart?
All the sailors there seem to be holding their own quite handily.
Okay, in which case I'm gonna presume that they can keep defending well, and go down the hatch in hopes of finding whoever has possibly gone down there and stopping them.
Yep. So you open up the hatch and drop below. You hear one of the sailors go, "Get them before they find anyone down there, lad."
Sorry, I didn't hear that. What was that?
One of the sailors sort of shouts at you as you jump below, going, "Get them before they find anyone, lad."
Oh, right, yeah.
I
will, I promise.
As you land, you find yourself below decks. There's a long corridor that you've landed in. And two sailors have rushed down this corridor. You see one of them sort of skid to a halt as you land in front of him. The other one takes a look at that, turns to his right, kicks open a door, and rushes in.
Right. Well, I can't get to the one who's run away, but I obviously assume that he's going somewhere important. So I don't want to get to him. So I will attack the person in front of me with hopes of following after the other quickly.
Yep. So roll an attack.
I will do as soon as I find my dice. There we are. I got 6, 11, 13.
That'll be a hit.
Fantastic. It was just 3 dice, wasn't it?
3 dice plus your ability score. So off the top of my head, it's accuracy for you.
Accuracy. Okay. In which case it's 15 because I hadn't added that.
That is definitely a hit.
Cool. Alright. So I need to roll damage now, don't I?
Yep.
Am I still alright to use both my dagger and short sword and just kind of randomly slash at the person?
Yep.
Okay, for my...
Also, what's your dexterity?
It is...
14, is it not?
Oh, my defense?
No, sorry, your dexterity.
My dexterity is 4.
Oh, 4, sorry. You can also use pinpoint attack.
Oh, sweet. In which case, I rolled a 1, so can I use pinpoint attack with my dagger?
Yep,
So 1 plus 1 is 2, plus pinpoint attack, which is another d6, isn't it?
yep.
Which again is a 1. Joy, so that's 3 for my dagger, and my short sword. Oh, look, Joy of Joys, it's another 1.
You managed
plus
to
2, which is 3 in total. 3 with each.
you managed to land hits. He seems to be trying to step out of the way of your attacks. You've left a couple of nice scratches on him, but you don't really feel that you've done
Much.
very much at all.
This has recently been the way of it for Tarin. He's not doing great, is he?
Rightio. I think I saw Edric said BRB. I just saw Merrisea's message.
Yeah.
Rightio, that would normally have brought us to Edric, who I see typing, so there we go.
Hello.
Hello.
I was summoned by the fact that it is my turn.
Yep.
What did I miss?
Tarin actually hitting your opponent lightly.
Not very well.
If she was any lighter, she'd probably have been tickling him with her dagger tips.
A miss. Basically.
Okay. So what's the situation right now on the ship?
So you can make out 4 or 5 sailors trying to push through where Tarin had been defending. 2 of them not looking all that healthy. 5 trying to shove their way through the center of the ship. And there's now only 2 trying to fight the sailors up near the rear hatch. Oh, sorry, the front hatch where Whisp had been defending.
I want to shoot one of the guys near the hatch where
Yep.
Whisp is defending.
Where Whisp was, up the other end.
No, that's far away. I'd like to pick a target that's somewhat more realistic to shoot.
Well, you could aim for the one that you aimed at before, who's...
Oh, yes, I'd like to take his face off.
Yep.
Again.
Go for it. He's only meters away from you, and he is more concerned still about the enemies in front of him rather than the lone rifleman up on deck.
16 to try and hit him
Yeah, that hits.
with 4 stunt points.
Go for it. Don't forget pinpoint.
Well, his dexterity is...
Oh,
better
actually,
than
yeah,
mine.
sorry, it was 13 for 13. Yep. It was 3 for 3.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then in that case, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the lightning attack and... No, wait, no, because I also have it up. I'd like to do Pierce Armor
Yep.
to halve his armor rating.
Yep.
Afterwards, I want a rapid reload.
Yep.
And then I'd like to sink the last point into skirmish.
Yep.
And then for damage, that's more like it. That's That's a number. And that number. 16 damage.
And you halved his armor. Radio, you shoot, and his skull explodes and he drops to the deck, dead.
I'll just yell out, "That's one for me, that's one for me."
The sailor who was fighting him cheers.
Yay, someone noticed. I'll raise daddy above my head and then, like, look at where's the next one.
I'll raise that above my head. I just... That's beautiful.
I enjoy that. My weapons are called Sugar Daddy.
Let me see how the next group do. Radio, your captain seems to be holding his own above on board the enemy ship. The enemy crew are now fighting. Edric, some of those that were fighting at the hatch that Tarin were at now realize that you're a bit of a threat up there. So one of them is going to rush up to try and attack you.
Can I flip him the bird while they rush at me?
Yep. So he's gonna rush up and try to charge you. And does a 15 hit you?
Yes.
Right here.
Except I'd much rather not.
That will be 7 points of damage.
Okay, and I take the armor off of that.
Yep.
Right? Okay, I'll survive that, I think.
Rightio. 3 is still fighting below you with the crew. There's still a mass brawl of 5 sailors in the center. And then we get to below decks. The one that Whisp trying to disembowel is going to try and fight back. I think you got a really good shot on him because I don't believe a 9's going to hit. That brings the one that Tarin poked. I am swapping dice.
But you're doing so
No,
well.
use them, please.
So a 7's definitely not going to hit.
Nope. I'm assuming it's not going to hit Tarin, in which case, nope.
Yeah, that was an attempt to attack Tarin. Let's just say the surprise got the better of him.
Well, quick mention here, how you calculate your defense by adding 10 to your dexterity. A 7 is going to be really difficult to get.
Yeah, that's true.
Pretty
Yeah.
much. Rightio. That brings all of them to completion. He's going to make an attempt to... Yep, that doesn't happen. And that brings us to Flaley, who jumps down behind Tarin. And
Of course, that's going to be so much help because I'm doing so well by myself.
Hey, at least now you
Double the
have
failing.
yeah, at least now you have double the missing. They might laugh themselves to death.
well, surprisingly,
That's a very good possibility.
Flaley actually manages to land a hit.
Oh, for fuck's
Is
sake.
it, please tell me it's not on the back of Tarin's head.
No.
Yeah. I survived, right?
It was triple once, the ship explodes, we all die.
Good campaign, guys. Yeah, okay.
Rightio, so that he gets another decent slash into the one facing you, Tarin. The smug sort of smirk on his face is now kind of rubbed off a bit. He seems a lot more concerned now.
Now that he's actually been hit.
Alrighty. That is your ally's turn, and that brings us up to Wisp.
I'm gonna try and stab him again.
Go for it.
Sorry if you can hear the yawning, by the way. That's not because I'm bored. I promise.
Yeah, that hits. And that's a 7 damage. Rightio. He's bleeding fairly badly, and he does not look happy.
Say that again, sorry?
He's bleeding fairly heavily, and he does not look happy. He seems to be struggling to keep himself on his feet a bit. Alrighty. That brings us up to Bhajiri.
Right, so the guy who I disarmed,
Yep.
he doesn't. Bhajiri's like, nah, that's not much of a threat at the minute. Bhajiri's more concerned about the innocent people on board. So, is there? Yeah, Bhajiri, since he's on the edge of the ship, he's going to try and get from the edge of the ship to the nearest area where enemies are trying to get down below deck and stab someone in the back.
Yep. So from where you're
At
standing,
a reasonable distance away, since he's got his reach from his spear, he's going to stay as far back as possible.
Yep.
But still in range to stab and murder and kill.
From what you can see, it's the center of the ship that has the most trouble. It doesn't look like any of them have gotten below deck, but it is still a cluster of 5 sailors trying to fight their way past the gunnery chief and a small group of sailors that are standing their ground above the hatch.
Yeah, Bhajiri's going to go for whoever is not paying attention to him the most.
Go for it. And I'll say roll this one at advantage, so roll a second time and pick the highest of the 2 numbers.
Sorry, say again?
Roll at advantage, so roll twice, pick the highest of the 2 numbers.
Okay, so that's... okay, so 12 plus my fighting, 14 plus... It's 16.
Definitely
because of my... Yeah. Nice. I didn't get any stunt points, unfortunately. But I could still do the stabby.
Yep.
Which is a lovely little 7 plus 3, 10.
Rightio. Yep, that guy felt it as you just stepped casually up behind him and shanked him in the back with a spear and then sort of danced back out of reach. And he's swearing now, realizing he's now got an enemy in front of him and one behind.
Realizing what, sorry?
Him and some of the others have started to realize they've now got enemies behind them as well as in front of them and aren't quite sure what to do.
Ah, excellent.
Rightio. That was you, Bhajiri. That brings us up to, once again, Bingo.
Hello.
Last time we met Bingo, Bingo was having an existential crisis.
Bingo is still having an existential crisis. Oh my god! There's so much money here! Oh, what do I do? Oh. Okay. Okay. Think. Is there anything in the room that could do as a bag or a wheelbarrow or a large sack?
A person-sized sack.
You see, like, storage containers and crates. There's sacks that you presume would probably be containing foodstuffs.
Is there a sack that would contain foodstuffs that I could carry if I tipped out all the food and filled it to the brim with silver?
You presume you could fill one of the sacks to the brim with gold, but you would literally be carrying a sack roughly your size, and you would not be the most stealthy, jingling creature in the world.
Good point. Okay. Okay. He's going to sigh very regretfully.
Okay, my Discord seems to be playing up because I see Bingo talking but not hearing anything.
Sound is messing up again.
Alright, I'm jumping us.
Welcome back
Alright.
to wherever we are now.
Yay!
Alright, Bingo, what were you up to?
He's regretfully turned his back on the silver. Is going to have to make the most of what he's got, and he's going to instead look back around at all the stuff that he can use to make explosions, and he is going to get anything he can in here that will make a nice big explosion. Not so big that it will blow the ship apart, just maybe blow a nice big hole in it so that, you know, it can maybe start to sink a little bit. Maybe.
Right, yo. So, I'll get you... Actually, that's right. You've pretty much got the time down there due to your existential crisis. Bingo explores the entire hull of the ship, and underneath some what looks like hardened leather protectors is these large iron-rimmed barrels, and peeking your head over the top, you see gunpowder in the same satchels that you were using yourself on the cannons. You, after a bit of struggle, managed to roll one of them into the center and then slowly and surely start working your way to piling them.
Can I also fill up my own sacks with gunpowder so I've got some more if I am down any?
Yep.
So I'm just a mess of silver and powder right now.
What you do is you grab 2 of the gunpowder satchels for the cannons and tie them to your belt.
Okay. Taking great care not to leave a trail of gunpowder up to myself, because that is what the amateurs do. Yes, apparently an anti-werewolf grenade.
Right, yeah. So with your makeshift charge created, you grab one of the sacks and you carefully lay out a trail of gunpowder.
I want to allow myself like maybe a minute so that I can like run upstairs as fast as I can. Maybe. I know how fast I can run. Maybe 2 minutes.
You make like a sort of like snake pattern on the deck to give yourself the most amount of time to get out of there. And then drop the empty sack, and I will get you to roll. Let me just open up. You will need to roll an intelligence engineering check.
Okay. Intelligence. Well, I'm not terrible at that. Okay. 14.
Okay. You do like a last check, feel like you've done everything properly, and light
the room doesn't appear trapped. Oh shit.
light the end of the powder and begin running. As you rush up out of the trap door and onto the next deck, are you going to try and sneak back off, or are you just going to peg it?
I was gonna go for the nearest porthole and like open the window and go out of that.
From what you remember, the sides of the ships are pretty much flush with each other, and you doubt you'd be able to get out the side closest to your own ship. If you're going to attempt to do that, you'd have to go out the far side and then run across the deck.
Or swim.
While we're flying, that would be quite a fall before you swim.
Or swim. Or fall, yeah, because I'm okay. With a bag full of silver in the middle of the ocean. Yeah, I'm not stupid. I'm not stupid. Okay. I will. Can I do a bit of both? Can I be sneaky but not slow?
Rightio. I'll get you to roll a dexterity and a dexterity sneaking, thanks.
Okay. Come on, dexterity. Okay. 13.
Rightio. You move as quickly as you can, trying to hold as many of the coins in place so that you're not jingling along like a happy little elf. You make it.
I want to see Bingo Boom Boom in like an elf's costume now.
You
Like
make it
Santa elf
most
guy.
of the way out when one of the hatches open and a confused looking sailor sticks his head out and then gives a shout.
Uh-oh.
At which point the other 3 sailors that were below decks also burst out into the corridor.
Okay, I'm gonna deliberately drop some silver to make it look like I was just robbing them.
Yep.
And shout, "Oh no! The thief's busted!" And like try and run.
You
Nothing to see down there, just a missing pile of silver. Nothing at all.
I love Bingo Boom Boom so much.
shouting that, you rush up onto deck. And find yourself in a mixed brawl between the captain and the sailors that were on deck with him and the remaining crew of the ship. No
How
one.
long have I got left on my timer?
You think you've probably only got somewhere in the realm of about 30 seconds to get your ass off the ship.
Okay. And I recognize some of the people on there, right?
Yep.
Do I remember the name of like our captain?
You would. And I'm just
Do I,
putting
do I like them?
Well, you like the fact that he pays you. Or he promised to
Okay.
pay you.
What's his name again?
So,
I've got it written down. Patrick Fulton, is that
Yep.
right?
Yay! Okay, then I will leap up on the edge, ready to jump back onto my own ship, and shout, "Oi! Fulton! Move your ass! It's boom boom time!"
Is that going to be your catchphrase?
I'll get you to do one last roll. Can you do a communication check?
God.
It's like he wants you to fail.
It's okay, I have a 2 in communication. It's fine. It's fine. I'm gonna swap that dice though because that hasn't been kind to me so far. Oh God. Okay. 10.
When you shout that, some of the nearest of the enemy sailors hear what you say, and you see their faces go white, and they rush downstairs.
They got 30 seconds. They can't do it.
The captain seems to just hear you, and him and his crew just bolt towards your own ship.
I'm gonna jump back onto my own ship too.
Do that.
I got a pocket full of silver. I got a love and a nothing.
And
Oh.
I need all of this.
All of this, he says, pointing at his dice, probably.
Yeah, there was that. I don't know why that one had to go halfway across the room, but it did.
I need bigger pockets.
Let me math.
That's 12.
That was one of the numbers.
Oh shit.
Rightio.
Uh-oh.
You hear a absolutely massive explosion as you step onto your ship, and flames are now cheerily coming out from below decks. The ship still seems to be happily airborne, but
Oh my God, I totally forgot that we're not at sea.
I tried warning you when you talked about swimming.
that well and truly said, you're pretty certain by the sound of it that everyone that went below deck is not coming back up.
Oh no!
So has Bingo Boom Boom got the highest kill count so far?
In the running, from memory.
Nice.
Oh no! I'm gonna look around and be like, I give that a 6.5 out of 10.
And I need to roll these now.
Uh-oh.
It's his death die.
It was pain.
Two of the groups that were fighting to get below deck hear the explosion and the shouting and the fact that something very big exploded on their own ship. Turn around and see Bingo standing on the rail and just drop their weapons. They're done.
Cool! I am Bingo
Do they all kneel? Please say they all kneel.
Those that hear that do.
Yeah!
Currently, there's only the group in front of you, Bhajiri, that are still trying to somewhat fight their way below decks, and the ones that went below deck, you don't know what's going on. Those below decks know exactly what's going on. Right, that brings us to the top of the list. Tarin.
Right, okay. I'm assuming from below decks I've heard said big explosion.
Below decks, yes, you did hear a big explosion. You felt it as well.
Yeah.
Like a bit of a bone rattle as something thumped. The fact that your ship didn't seem to take any damage gives you a fair feeling that it was at least on the other ship.
Yeah. So is that probably all I'm aware of right now?
At the moment, yes.
Okay, cool. In which case, I'm going to assume that somebody else is handling the other ship at the present, and that there's nothing else I can do anyway, so I'll just keep fighting the person in front of me in the hopes of, once again, hurting him.
Yep.
Hopefully more than last time, and then following the other ones who ran away.
Go for it.
So my attack is 6 plus 5 plus 1, so that's 12, plus my accuracy, which is 2, so 14.
That's a hit.
Yes. Right, come on for good damage. So I'm going to try and use pinpoint attack
Yep, that was a hit.
on my on my dagger, which I got a 5 plus 1, which is 6 plus 1 for the pinpoint, so that's 7 for the dagger.
Yep.
And then for the short sword, a 3 plus 2, which is 5.
Yep. So this one is now starting to look fairly bloodied and
Yay.
hard pressed. He does not look happy.
That is the aim.
Edric, you're up.
Nice. So I just witnessed like the other ship start to explode.
There was a big explosion on it. There's smoke billowing out from below decks. It's taken a lot of damage. It doesn't look like it's going to collapse into pieces, but if anyone was below decks at the time that happened, you don't think they're at least all in one piece.
They won't qualify as healthy, basically.
No. There
In
might not
that
be enough
case-
left to send back to next of kin.
That sounds perfect. I intend to kill someone who is still on our ship.
Alrighty. So the ones closest to you have surrendered. You can make
I
out.
don't give a fuck. I want to shoot them.
Go for it.
Jesus.
God damn it.
What do you get?
A legendary kill.
666.
Yes.
Right here. I won't even get you to roll damage for this one. So you basically have you're loaded. You're using Big Daddy, right?
Oh, yes.
You have your loaded rifle in your hands and you just casually aim it down at one of the kneeling sailors who has surrendered to Bingo after he jumped back onto the ship, and you just in cold blood execute him on the deck. The remaining fighters see this and panic and toss their weapons and throw their hands up in the air.
Perfect.
Put your hands in the air like you just don't care.
But Bingo is enjoying the moment, from what I gather.
Bingo's like stood there like with his hands in the air like, yeah, come on then.
I'm
Right.
kind of imagining, like, Edric shooting this person, bingo boom boom, just being very proud of themselves, and then blood just splattering across them, them not flinching.
Blood don't scare me, motherfucker!
Basically, to them, you were the most ruthless, cold-blooded killers they've ever seen.
Epic!
I'd like them to shit their pants when they think about us.
Some of them already have.
Good.
We have a code brown situation! A code brown!
All right. That brings us down to the captain's on deck, and he is ordering those of you above deck, so those that had been defending, to round up the weapons and to start tying up and bundling up any of the surviving of the surrendered crew.
I collect as many weapons as I can, not necessarily all to hand them in.
Fair enough.
Good man.
That said, that's all of them done. The enemies below deck are going to do their bits, as they're the only ones still in combat. Give me my dice. Thank you.
No, you used them to try and kill us.
So the one attacking Tarin is going to give it a good shot, and does a 13 hit.
Nope.
Right, he whiffs it, and does a 14 hit. Hang on, that's 12, 13. Yeah, a 14 hit. You Wisp. Do we have a Wisp?
Wispy.
If they don't answer, that means they didn't get hit, right?
There we go. I can hear someone. And lost them again. I'm gonna
Sorry,
just radio. Wisp, did you have defense higher than a 14?
I'm exactly 14.
Radio, that is enough. You barely sway out of the way of this attack from the enraged sailor in front of you, but he doesn't manage to land it on you.
Great.
These guys do not yet know that we murdered their families.
These three have no idea what's going on. And then the third one. Yep. Rightio. He's done his bit. That brings
Doesn't sound good.
that brings us up to the top of the order again.
Already?
Yep, because most of hang on, you've got Flaley down there, don't you?
Yeah.
Flaley's actually going to have a shot at attacking the guy in front of you,
Fantastic.
and is
Come
going
on,
to
Flaley.
hit. He seems to have found his stride.
Yes! Come on, Flaley!
In fact, he's found his stride so well that he just managed to run his sword directly through the stomach of the one that you were fighting and barely killed him.
Nearly kill him. Or actually kill him.
He just killed him. He's sort of just twisting the blade to make sure of it.
Oh, there's the bloodthirsty guy I'm sure he'll become.
He seems somewhere caught between like the thrill of success and sheer like horror that he's actually killed someone.
Right.
Rightio. And yep, that brings us back up to you, Tarin.
Back to me. Well, first of all, I make sure that Flaley's not about to throw up.
He seems to be
Then-
holding himself together just.
In which case, can I gesture for him to follow along and we run after the other person who escaped?
Yep.
Uh,
So you basically run up to the door that he rushed through and shoulder it open, and
Yep.
you find that he's actually fighting with some of the passengers. There's currently a passenger on the deck bleeding,
No. Okay.
but it seemed like he wasn't quite expecting the room to be filled with people.
Ah, I see. um, can I attack him?
Yep.
Fantastic. Oh yes, stunts as well. Oh, what happens if I get a triple 5?
You
Nothing,
don't get
I'm
a
assuming. It's
you
not
don't get a
legendary.
legendary, but you do get 5 stunts.
I do get 5 stunts. Okay.
Yeah, and that is also a hit.
Yes. So I got 15 plus accuracy, which is 17. I don't know if that counts for anything, but and then 5 stunt points.
Yep.
For my dagger, got a 5 plus 1, which is 6. I'm going to use pinpoint again.
Yep.
Which again is a 1. What is with the 1s this evening? So that's 7 for my dagger, and
Yep.
then for my short sword, I've got a 6 plus 2, which is 8. And then for 5 stun points, what am I going to use? I'm going to use lethal blow.
Go for it.
And that's a total of 10 for my lethal blow as well.
Rightio. You just leap onto the back of this guy and just start shanking him with your dagger and your sword.
Fantastic.
And he is bleeding all over his back.
Can I say something really ridiculous, like pick on someone your own size?
This guy is about 2 foot taller than you? Yes.
Fantastic.
Alrighty. That brings us to Edric. You're up.
Okay, so the guys that actually put their hands up basically all have been rounded up, I assume.
Yep. They've all been bundled up together.
Yeah.
Some of them are being tied up as you look at them. Others are currently just at weapon point, still with their hands where everyone can see them.
Oh shit, I just remembered something.
Yep.
If that one guy's head exploded, what did I roll again for blood?
That would be a willpower.
That's not good. That's decidedly not good. Do I get stunt points on this?
I'm gonna go with a no.
Okay. In that case, that's a 5 total.
Rightio. While you're surveying the entire scene in front of you, you start to realize that there is blood. There is lots of blood because there has been lots of killing. And you start to feel both extremely nauseous and start to panic. You want to be as far away from all the blood as possible.
I climb up the netting on the side of the ship towards the balloon.
Yep. As you do, I will get you to roll a constitution.
Wait, Constitution?
Yep.
$16.
You manage to make sure that you're not vomiting on any of them as you climb above their heads. You just hold it in. But you are struggling very, very hard to not give everyone a shower that they don't want.
Ew.
And with that, we're up to next in the list, which will bring us up to, that's 4, 5, 6. Flaley's going to jump in and help Tarin and hit.
Come on, Flaley.
Where the hell did that dice go? He leans in and swipes at this sailor's leg and nearly drops him to his knees. He's barely holding himself up. It looks like a faint wind would blow him over at this stage. And that brings us up to Bhajiri.
Right, so, since people on deck are being... How damaged was the enemy ship that is still currently attached?
From your estimates, it's taken a pounding, but it's still airworthy.
Okay, in that case, Bhajiri is going to head towards any fighting that's left going on and try to assist his allies.
There's no more fighting going on deck, but you do recall that some appear to have managed to get below deck, even if some of the crew seem to have forgotten that fact. So you make your way down and jump down a hatch, nearest one to you being the middle one, and find yourself in the hall below the top deck. Down the other end of the hall, you can see Whisp engaged with a enemy sailor who seems oblivious to what's going on above deck, and you can hear the sounds of fighting coming from one of the rooms. You're not 100% certain which one.
Okay, in that case, Bhajiri is going to assist Whisp and charge and do a cheeky stab.
Yep, go for it.
That is a 8 plus 3 plus 2, so 13.
Yep, that hits.
Lovely. And unfortunately, no stunt points. Oh, that damage. Oh, big damage. That is 14 points of damage. If I can count.
Right here, let me just double check his hit points. So, Wisp, you're trading blows with this sailor when all of a sudden, from your perspective, a very, very sharp metal object just erupts out of his chest. Bhajiri, you've just run down the hall at full pelt and lunged and sent your spear tip completely through his back and out the front of him.
Was there a crunch? Did I hear a crunch?
There was several crunches.
I'm satisfied.
You've got a rather dead shish kebab on the other end of your spear.
Yeah, Bhajiri, having done that, Bhajiri is going to just angle the spear down and just let him slump off of the shaft of it.
And he makes a very satisfying thud on the floor as he slides off, twitching ever so slightly.
And Bhajiri's going to say, "Oh, I hope that washes out."
The spear will be fine.
And that brings us to Wisp.
Gonna wipe the blood off on the dead person. Then I'm gonna say, Bhajiri, come on, we'll tag team.
Oh, sounds good.
Since that's pretty much nearly all of them dead or captured, Wisp, you lead Bhajiri to the room you saw the only remaining sailor that you know is down here into, and find Tarin stabbing him frantically in the back as your friend Flaley manages to lean past and sort of hamstring him across the back of his leg. He's on his knees and very, very bloodied, but he's still got a weapon in his hand, and he is swinging it wildly, trying to hit anything at this stage.
I use my crossbow.
Go for it.
Oh god.
Yeah, that's going to be hit. Roll damage.
Fuck that.
Let me... There we go. So 16 is a definite hit, and what was that?
On top of that.
You do crossbows off the top of my head is
2d6 plus.
I think
one.
it is. Yep, and then you add your perception for additional damage. Right. Bhajiri, you and Whisp rush through the door, seeing the scene, and Whisp just calmly lifts the crossbow and fires with a satisfying thunk, sends the crossbow bolt between both Flaily and Tarin, and it sinks straight into the back of the neck of this sailor and drops him.
Bhajiri's going to give an appreciative nod, just like, nice.
And with that, you believe that the last of the resistance on the ships has been dealt with. In front of you, you've got a group of terrified refugees, one of them who seems badly injured, having been attacked by the sailor who came through.
In what way? Injured? Like stabbed?
Yes, bleeding.
Right.
It looks like he got slashed up across the chest as he tried to step into the way and defend people.
Right. Are we still playing in initiative order, or can
Nope,
we all join in?
it is now
Okay.
completely freeform because
Okay.
there is no combat left at this stage. You've pretty much
Oh.
murdered everyone.
Fantastic. Can I can Tarin drop down to see see what he can do to help the
Yep.
injured passenger?
That you can do. I'll get you to roll an intelligence check on that, just to see how bad it is.
That all 3d
3d6
again.
plus intelligence, yep.
Oh, nice. Double 6 plus 3, which is 15, plus 2, which is 17.
Rightio.
High numbers are good numbers.
Yeah.
You've seen injuries like this before. It's bad, but it's definitely not going to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, who were we talking about?
You're talking about one of your friendly people that you saved.
Okay.
Oh, okay,
Okay, yay, he's not gonna die.
You're pretty certain that if you were to spend a bit of time bandaging it up, he would be able to pull through until he got proper medical attention from the medical officer who's somewhere up on deck.
Probably
Brilliant.
already annoyed at the work he's gonna have to do.
Can I attempt to do that patching up?
Yep. You,
Yes, or carry on.
since you've got the plentiful resources of the no longer needed T-shirt of the sailor that basically had a crossbow bolt sent through his neck. You remove the crossbow bolt and hold it out to Whisp, and just start ripping this guy's shirt apart into ribbons to effectively turn into a set of bandages, sort of leaving out the bloody parts.
Yeah. Just thinking, I got 6 stunt points.
Yep.
I'm assuming I can't hold on to them and use them later on.
To be honest, there's good reason for that, because they'd seriously get banked.
Yeah. There's not really anything that's particularly useful, is there, for this?
What you could probably do. I'd say use resources at hand, because you're trying to do effectively a medical check.
Oh, yeah.
So based on that, using items in the room and asking from members of the refugees that are there, you manage to actually effectively gather up enough to create almost a medical kit.
Okay.
And not only have you just bandaged to stop the bleeding, you've put in about as good as a bandage and cleaning of the wound as you could do without actually having a bona fide doctor's kit with you.
Fantastic. Sounds good to me. I'm hoping he'll live.
At least for 5 more minutes.
Exactly.
He seems pretty thankful, although he's still in a reasonable amount of pain, but someone's given him a bottle of booze to help him with that.
Oh, he's got a baby bottle.
Yep. He's pretty much sucking a bottle of rum straight. Some of the others move in once you've finished and go to make him comfortable. A sailor steps down into the room and takes stock of what's happened, and then nods to the rest of you and says, "Captain wants us on deck."
Bhajiri's gonna immediately head, but he's gonna take the corpses of anyone he comes across and take them with him.
You grab the one in that room by the ankles and just drag him.
Just leaving a bloody smear mark.
Yep.
Nice.
And depending on left or right, you've got a choice of another corpse on your way out. But you wind up with 2 corpses effectively slung over your shoulders as you climb back out up onto deck. Anyone up on deck will actually see Bhajiri climb out with those corpses.
He's gonna put the corpses in a pile just to be like, we're gonna sort this out later.
You have a thing about piles of corpses, don't you, really? Every given opportunity.
Bhajiri likes his corpses organised, what can I say?
The nice organised corpse.
I'll get you to roll a perception, Edric. Bhajiri, your OCD slightly kicks in and you've arranged them from smallest to largest.
Just to clarify, he is intending on getting rid of the corpses in a way that is fitting and respectful.
That's
Not a pile of corpses for storage.
I hope you're taking what you can from them first, not just throwing them away with useful items left on them.
Of course. Come on. Their items and their belongings will be used to arm prisoners that Bhajiri is going to talk over on side. That is Bhajiri's plan.
Okay.
We're
Right,
with you.
yeah.
We're with you.
Edric, you see the rifles that got brought up on deck by the crew on the other ship before they surrendered. They're just left currently lying on the deck itself.
I go and collect a few.
Yep.
Like 2 of them I sling over my shoulder.
Yep.
The rest of them I collect in my arms and I put on our ship, like in the middle.
Yep.
And obviously I'm gonna collect 9 more bullets if I can find them. Like,
Yep, you can scatter around and find roughly that.
awesome.
You might have to reach into a few pockets, kind of not looking at anything that's red at the time, but you do manage to scrounge up.
Good. And then I'm gonna keep 2 of the rifles and give the rest, like, to the ship.
Yep.
Like, to the captain, like, hey, I found these.
The captain nods and gestures for you to stack them up against the cabin that's at the center of the ship and goes, "Good work, we'll gather up all of this and get up below decks in good time." And then he glances around and does a rough head count and goes, "Do we have everyone on deck?"
I think Tarin's still downstairs. Before he goes up, he's gonna watch Bhajiri take out the corpses. Is there any corpses left in the room?
There is one up the other end that Bhajiri had run through
Right.
that had been fighting Whisp.
Okay, so that's out in the corridor, isn't it?
Yep.
On his way, he's going to first check on all the people in the passengers in the room, check they're all right.
Yep.
So basically, just be like asking, see if anybody says they're not. I'm assuming they're all fine. And so he walks out the room, sees the leftover corpse, attempts to pick it up, but only manages to pick up a leg and move it an inch. So just drops the leg, kind of checks that nobody's looking, and then runs up to the deck.
You're pretty certain you got away with no one seeing that.
Fantastic.
Up on deck, the crew is starting to gather around the captain.
Gather.
He's puffing a bit, as some of the crew who aren't as used to combat as others. You see the gunnery chief now leaning against some of the cannonballs and the barrels that have been brought up on deck to deal with the enemy ship when it had first engaged you. And he is once again happily puffing away on his pipe, keeping it as far away from the gunpowder he's leaning on as possible. He just grins at you, Bingo. The captain looks at you and goes, "You've all fought well. I must admit that I was concerned that when we were first attacked that this would probably have been the end of the Argonaut. But not only have you defended this ship, you've defended it well enough that we have actually managed to catch a prize." And he gestures across at the other ship. "I want half of you to go on board and see if that ship is ship-worthy enough to get it back to Port Marley."
And how many crew members will we be having?
We'll split ourselves 50-50. And since you've already proven yourself, I'll put you in command of that ship.
As he says that, Bhajiri's eyes like widen and like sparkle, like you know, in some cartoons, it's just like the whoa, me.
Wait. You're saying we can go back on the other ship?
The captain grins at you and goes, "Yes, I want you to take that along with this ship to Port Marley. Neros," and he gestures to the medical officer, "will be on there with you. He knows the way and will have maps and instruments to help you navigate, although it shouldn't be too hard. You'll just have to follow the Argonaut. It will be a great benefit to the people of Mali and to the refugees of Freeport to see, at the very least, we've managed to strike a blow against the enemies that have taken the city. Not to mention there may be evidence of what they were after and why they were after it on the ship.
And this is the same ship I just came off, right?
Yep.
With all the money and the silver.
There is quite a lot of silver on board.
The captain's raises an eyebrow slightly and goes, well, it's good to know that they hadn't actually dished out their pay to their crew yet. That said, we'll split that by equal shares, and of course some of it will go to the repairs of our ship, and I dare say some of it will probably go to the repairs of that one there. Doesn't hurt to increase.
You can't tell under the really big mask, but he's grinning like...
It doesn't hurt to expand the fleet a bit.
Can Tarin volunteer to go and see what he can find out on the other ship about what they might be doing or what they were after?
So the captain starts to say, I'm going to want some volunteers, and Tarin has already literally stepped forward.
Yes. Me, I'll volunteer.
So he volunteers to go on the other ship?
Yep.
I volunteer!
Captain,
Bhajiri's already just slowly shuffling over, just ready to board it.
Captain, if I may,
Yes, lad.
the other ship might need a gunnery chief. Would that be a suitable role for me to volunteer for?
The captain looks at you and then looks across at the gunnery chief, who just grins and nods and basically takes another puff of his pipe and blows out a smoke ring. I wouldn't pick anyone else, Captain. With that, he looks back at you and nods and goes, congratulations on the promotion, lad.
Thank you very much, Captain. Thank you very much, gunnery chief. And with that, I go to collect half of the weapons that I just took off of that ship.
Yep. He nods and lets you do that. He picks out a couple of the other crew, so hands from his own crew that seem to be old guard, plus some of the new crew, and sends them across as well.
Where's Flaley McFlaley ending up?
Flaley McFlaley has wound up being selected amongst the crew that's gone across onto your ship.
Of course. Is
Can we
it now an appropriate time to ask his name?
He's standing at the railing, just sort of seeming completely befuddled about what's happened and the fact that, once again, after another battle, he's still alive.
Guys,
And done some damage.
guys, with all of the promotions that we've been getting, I found one for Flaley.
What?
He can be our figurehead.
We strap him to the front of the ship.
Yes,
No, come on, we do that with the prisoners.
fair. It's your orders, Captain.
That was an Andrew comment, not a Bhajiri comment.
Rightio. So you make your way on board the other ship and start taking stock of the damage. Those of you that are going to be searching the ship for anything of interest other than the gold that Bingo has already found, feel free to roll perception sight checks. Edric, if you go anywhere below Dex, you're definitely rolling a Constitution.
I am so tempted to say I want to go to the armory of this ship. I want to check out what's going on there. But
You can. Just be aware that you'll be rolling Constitution if you go below Dex just yet.
it will be the thing that Edric does. Oh wait, no, there's something more important that Edric would do.
Yep.
Edric will personally check everybody who boards this ship so that they are not the lady he recognized.
Bhajiri would like to make a request of. I almost said Patrick Fulton. Yeah, it is Patrick Fulton.
Yes,
I
it
can
is.
remember things. He's going to ask whether or not they can have some of the prisoners that are willing to work from the first fight that they were in. Basically, to say, if you're willing to work, then you might have a place on this ship, and we might not sell you to slavers. Sort of thing.
All 4 of the original survivors of the original fight volunteer very, very happily.
Glenn,
Yep.
quick question. For the perception for the searching thing,
Yep.
I've got seeing. Shall I add that?
Yes. So that would be a
I've
+2.
also got scouting as a talent. Is that does that help in this situation? Or?
Off the top of my head, scouting gives you a advantage against failed stealth check, but I'll just double check that.
But if you fail a dexterity stealth test, you can re-roll it, but you must keep the rolls of the second.
Yep.
The results of the second roll.
Oh right, okay. So it's not relevant in this situation.
No.
At
Okay, cool.
master level, it will be.
Oh right, okay.
Oh, holy shit! I didn't see that. I didn't
Right.
see the journeyman upgrade for that. That's so powerful.
So, with a 16,
Mhm.
you... Excellent. Bhajiri, you've gone into the captain's chamber. Tarin, you've gone below decks. Below decks is a mess. There's quite a lot of damage and there's quite a lot of bodies. It looks like the crew that were there tried to get to the next deck below to stop something and they were torn up in the explosion.
Right.
You check a couple of the rooms and find a mess hall and kitchen and let me just type that. Some storage as well as the armory. But up the very back in the mess hall, you find a map on the table.
Right.
It's got some locations you recognize, including Freeport, which was circled. And you see a sort of almost line drawn from that, heading southwards.
Okay.
Which is not the direction that you've been going.
Ooh. Okay.
It's almost like they were plotting something. But you're not certain what.
Okay. I got 4 stump points.
Yep.
Oh, hang on a minute. No, I've got 3 because my stunt dice was a 3. Sorry. Can I see if I can nosy around a bit further, see if I can find anything that relates to the map that might give more
Yep. So
information? And can I use the object of your attention? My 3 stump points.
see. Yep.
I'm assuming I might need to do another perception, but I don't know.
No, that's fine. So you rummage around the room, and by and large, the only thing of any importance in here seems to have been the map itself. Just the way it's laid out, and the fact that the line on it seems to have been freshly added to it. There's an inkwell and a quill that's originally would have escaped attention because they're not on the table anymore, but they appear to have been there prior to a certain explosion.
Right.
It looks like they were plotting a course by the looks of it, and it's not the course of this particular ship.
Has actually taken.
Yep.
So one would assume either another ship's taken that course or that was where they were originally supposed to be going.
You can only make assumptions, but you believe that the only reason they would be marking it out the way they would is that it is the course of another vessel.
Sorry, it's the what?
You believe the only reason they'll be marking out the way they are, based on other marks on the map, that it would be marking or plotting the course of another vessel.
Alright, okay, cool. In which case, I will take my information and search out... Ooh, do I search out Bhajiri because he's technically my new captain in this kind of way, or do I go to Captain Fulton? I might go and see if I can find Bhajiri because I know he's also searching.
Yep.
See if my information is useful to what he's found.
Yep. Bhajiri, I will jump to you since you also rolled quite well. You've gone into the captain's cabin, logically, to see what your new accommodation is going to look like, but also to see what the captain of this ship may have been attempting to do. You're fairly familiar with ships, and you are very quick at being able to case the place and start pulling out all sorts of interesting things, from maps to some of the treasures and trinkets that this captain has put and tried to store away. You even succeed at finding a hidden shelf that he has behind his bunk and opening it up by prying away one of the wooden planks behind there. You find a whole bunch of documents. Looking at them quickly, you get the grasp that they appear to be orders.
Ooh. Bhajiri is going to he's going to skim read it and then read it.
Yep. A very quick skim indicates that there's a mix of old and new orders in there. The older ones indicate the attack on the city of Freeport itself. They don't really give you much of a reason why, but it does lay out how they managed to sneak up on the city and engage them without the alarm being raised anywhere near as quickly as it should have. The more interesting one is the top of the pile, which appears to be a specific order for this ship to hunt and find something.
Very intriguing. Bhajiri's going to do that little, like, just stroke his monkey face whilst he's reading, just like,
From what you can gather, this item is of incredible importance to the issuer of the orders, and that this ship was sent from Freeport to hunt it. You can only presume that the item that they've been sent to find was presumed to have been taken with the refugees.
Okay, very intriguing. And one last thing that Bhajiri wants to find out.
Yep.
Does this ship have a name? Or is this going to be a ship that he will then name?
From what you can tell, it was not exactly the most imaginatively named ship. The Skyak slavers don't exactly really have a standing military. They're kind of a mix. You tempt me so much.
Oh my god!
Because most of their fleet tends to be made up of slavers, rather than standing military ships, they don't really have imaginative and grand names for their actual military ships like Vengeance or anything like that. Basically, this one was just called the Swift.
Hmm.
Eh.
Yeah. Bhajiri's not too much of a fan of that. It's not bad luck to change the name of a ship, right?
No.
As far as you remember, not really.
As long
Especially
as you throw some alcohol at it.
if anything, you remember stories of ships being renamed after they've been captured in battle.
It's a change
Yep,
of
okay.
destiny, a change of name.
Yeah, very, very fitting. Bhajiri is going to wait until he addresses the crew before he says the name of the ship, but he's going to feed back the information he's found to Patrick Fulton.
So Captain Fulton listens to your report and frowns. It's good that you found that information because it indicates that they will likely attack Port Marley next if they feel that whatever they're after is there. Did you find anything that indicated what they're after?
Well, just an object of great importance, but it was very, very, very vague.
Well, let's hope one of these prisoners managed to either overhear something of some importance or has any idea what they were sent on board to look for. We'll,
Potentially, one of them might have whatever this item is, so I might suggest that when asking about this, it's done quietly and on the down low, so that if they do have this, they're more likely to disclose it.
He nods. I'll make sure that they're one at a time interviewed for what cause they had to attack us. We'll either get to the bottom of it or we will hopefully have more information of when they will be preparing to attack Port Marley if that is their next target. Well done. And good sailing.
Thank you, and good sailing to you too.
Before we leave before the ships part, as we move towards Port Marley or our next destination at least, I'd like to talk to the captain as well for a little bit. The previous captain.
Yep.
No insult, Bhajiri.
No insult taken.
I'm going to walk over to him, and I'll just ask him, Captain, or should I now call you Commodore?
Captain will do.
In that case, Captain, back when we originally planned to board our ship in Freeport, there was that orc that looked like he was about to attack you that I dealt with.
Yes, I remember the one. Lady Alara's so-called defender, or as he tried to bill himself anyway.
Where is Lady Alara?
She's currently been taking refuge in my cabin. That said, she did mention that I should give you her thanks for saving her life, and she wanted me to give you this. And he reaches into his coat and pulls out a folded letter in an envelope and hands it to you.
Okay, I'm gonna take the letter and... No. That's sad, Tarin.
Oh,
Sorry. Carry on with it. I've literally just got sound back. What were we? Carry on.
Good. I just got a letter from Lady Alara, the
All right.
woman who was on the ship, whom I recognized, and then
Yeah.
I killed the orc with her.
Mhm.
Well, I was asking about her,
Mhm.
and apparently she told the captain to thank me and hand me the letter. So
Ooh.
I'm just about to find out what's in the letter. I open the letter and I read it.
rightio. So the letter basically reads along the lines of, Dear Sailor, I don't know your name or much about you, but the captain has vouched that you are one of the staunchest fighters he has seen in very recent times. To that I must owe you my absolute thanks. My kidnapper was attempting to get me out of the city, and if that had been successful and I had not been able to escape from his clutches, I could not even begin to imagine what dire fate would face the Northern Kingdoms. That said, I've sent for a message to be given to the ambassador at Port Marley. If you wish to earn some funds in our employ, we have a mission that would be of great use for you to fulfill for us in Port Marley. The ambassador will recognize this letter and this seal and will know exactly what we need of him.
Interesting. Thank you, Captain. I think I know enough for now. Safe sailing, and I have one last question before I head back. From my new position as gunnery chief, it appears that most of our gunpowder has blown up. In case of an attack, that means that our cannons will remain silent.
He laughs at that and goes, yes, the very enterprising one that went below decks seems to have caused some damage down there. I'll make sure that we get some supplies sent across.
Perfect. Could you make sure that there's a few boarding access so that I can man my crew and get them ready for anything that might happen? Because these guys don't appear as calm as they seem right now.
That we can do, and the Argonaut will not be far.
Perfect.
We'll escort our new prize all the way into Port Marley.
Perfect. That way we'll make sure that everyone reaches Port Marley safely.
Agreed.
Safe travels, and see you on the other side, Captain.
See you in Port Marley.
With that, I step back off his ship onto our own, and I cut the last ropes that connect the ships. Oh wait, I don't have any sharp objects on me. I have my saw knife.
Would you like to borrow my dagger, Edric?
Well, I actually have a hand-forged knife.
Ooh.
I'm gonna cut the ropes with my forging knife.
Yep. So, with that, you hop on board. Some of the crew transfer across a couple barrels of gunpowder and shot to be stored on the ship. They specifically put them as far away from Bingo as possible. Short of dropping them off the side. After that's done, you go and start cutting up some of the ropes that are binding the two ships together. Another crew join you in doing that to the other ropes, and the two ships gently drift apart. Is the sound still cutting out, or is that a previous message?
That was the previous message, although it did just cut out a moment ago.
Right.
But it's back again now.
Awesome.
I don't know what it is. I think it's because my laptop gets really hot.
Okay, yep.
So I don't know.
Let me know if it keeps playing out.
Obviously,
Will
I
do.
could go for the arbitrary. Is it your laptop that gets hot, or is it you?
Well, I'd like to think it was me, but...
Your laptop just gets hot looking at you, I guess.
Oh, of course, yeah. It's my beauty that yeah.
So, as the two ships drift apart, the captain of the Argonaut pulls his wheel to pull them further apart and then takes off a holding position near your brand new ship.
Bhajiri is going to address the crew and any passengers that they've also taken whilst he stands by the helm.
So you stand near the helm and look out over the crew. You recognise most of them. All those that were in the pub with you have made their way on board, including some of those that joined you, you recognize that the soldiers that fought alongside you at the gate are also aboard, along with McFlaley and a couple of the standing crew. Standing beside you, you almost didn't see him approach, is the medical officer.
I cannot remember his name for some reason. It is not on my sheet.
Nearest tall feather.
Yeah, tall feather. He's the face palming one.
Yeah, anytime,
That's what my notes say.
anytime Merrisea has opened her mouth, yes.
Oh, is it like sensible to say Merrisea also makes it onto our ship?
Yes, Merrisea is aboard.
So our the entire crew is on our ship then.
Yep, currently you're all aboard your ship. Mug is even aboard.
Oh yeah, good. Mug.
I have
Right,
a theory about Mug, but I'll leave it until after we finished.
Ooh.
Sorry, carry on.
Bhajiri's gonna just look around at the ship, which is it's not in ruins, but it's in a bad way. He's so fucking happy about this, and he's gonna address his crew, and he's basically gonna say, "Welcome aboard, and welcome to my crew. We are heading to Port Marley, but it only seems fitting that you know the name of the vessel that you sail on. This vessel once did have a name under its other captain, but destinies change, and so shall its name. Welcome aboard the Cirrus."
What's it called, sorry?
The Cirrus.
Could you type that
Could
up?
you spell
Yeah.
that, please, Captain?
Yeah.
Cirrus. Brilliant.
C-I-R-U-S. Emphasis on the R.
It's like a pirate saying citrus. Citrus.
Cirrus.
I love it.
So basically the ship is called the Lemon then?
But Bhajiri's just gonna take a second to think of that comment and just be like, close enough.
I will immediately take the cask off my back, open it, and pour out a little mead to christen the ship. Well, I assume it's called differently in this world, but to make sure the ship and the name merge.
Oh yeah.
You
And
can
then
see one of the crew
and-
is taking notes to obviously begin to paint out the name on the side of the ship. He seems to be looking at the over the side at the best position to do so.
And Bhajiri's going to say to... he's going to basically not dismiss the crew, but he's going to say, now, if you had a job on the other ship, the Argonaut, chances are I'm going to give you the exact same job. So get to your positions, and you, the prisoners, you need to prove that you're willing and loyal to us. So you're going to be on cleaning duty until we at least get to Port Marley.
The prisoners look at the absolute mess all over the ship and shrug. And as they make their way towards one of the hatches, you hear one of them go, "I hope the mop survived."
I'll carefully stay on top deck until the cleaners say that it's clean enough to get to the armory safely.
You see them bringing up sacks that squelch a little bit and just toss them over the side. After
Nice.
a while, they stop doing that.
That's a good sign. It was sacks that sog a little?
Yep.
Oh, squelch a little.
Ooh.
What's a squelch?
It's like you know when you have wet like socks in your shoes and you step on them and it makes like funny sound. That's a squelch.
Okay.
That's the only way I could think of to describe it.
That's the kind of description. Now my neck hairs are standing up. I do not like that feeling.
You're channeling Edric right now.
So since we've sort of been dismissed by Captain Monkeyman, Tarin's gonna go up and be like, "What am I supposed to do?"
Oh, good question. And Bhajiri's gonna think.
Because there's not much you can do.
Dance, monkey, dance.
You can help me make breakfast.
You know what? That's a good idea. You could help feed the crew.
Fantastic. I can do that.
I mean, unless there's another job you want to do.
Not really at the moment, although I quite he might consider, because he did quite enjoy helping patch up the injured passenger. He might ask if he could feed the crew. Tarin's going to ask if he can feed the crew, but also maybe assist the medical officer.
Sure, go for it. As long as everyone's happy and healthy, I'm good.
Thank you.
That's the nicest piloted captain ever.
Neris raises an eyebrow slightly, but shrugs and goes, "Any help will be accepted."
I figured with all the blood around, like you'll end up needing help.
If we get into another scrap like that, I'm certain I'm going to need all the help I can get. Let's hope that they don't have any more ships out here looking for us.
On a side note, did Tarin tell Bhajiri about the course plot and the captain as well?
You can do at this point.
Can I tell him that? Okay. Tarin's going to take this opportunity to suddenly remember that he had important information to give and be like, Captain, I did some searching and there was a map, kind of looked a bit useful. They looked like they've drawn a recent course south, but not anywhere near where we are now. So I'm assuming it's for another vessel, not this one.
Bhajiri's gonna think to himself, and he's gonna just say, right, we'll inform the captain, the other captain, next time when we rendezvous in Port Marley.
Okie dokie.
But I'm sure it's fine. It'll be fine. All will be fine. He is as reassured by his own words as everyone else would be.
Neros is contemplating face palming, but sighs and gives up. Eddie turns around and goes, "Captain, it may be worth us at least looking at the map."
You know what? That's a good idea. Let's do that.
So you spread the map out. And I need to scroll because I need to find the original map. And I didn't pin it. That's a pain. Go to my maps. So where you're sailing sort of westerly and ever so slightly southwards, this course is almost cutting directly south over salt flats and into canyons and towards the larger desert below. There's a couple of ports that you are loosely aware of in the area. but you can't quite tell which course they're taking to get to any of them. Just the general vicinity that could be to any 2 or 3 of them, or they could be bypassing them altogether and heading towards the southern kingdoms. But what is clear is that whatever the destination may be, the origin is definitely Freeport.
So potentially it could have been another ship that left Freeport, the other ship that left alongside the Argonaut.
Neros sort of taps his fingers against the side of his brow and is frowning at the map, trying to will from it some sort of information that may or may not be there. You may be right, Captain, but it could also be loot. If they had sacked Freeport, they could be sending treasure ships further down towards the Empire in the south.
It could be, well, after the Cirrus's repair, could be worth heading in that direction, maybe.
I believe the captain may agree with that. It will either provide more information on what's happened, or it may be an opportunity to hit the slavers where it hurts. If those are treasure ships, they're likely to be overloaded and slow.
It could be a very profitable exchange.
Did Tarin go with them? Take them to
Yep.
the map? Is he in the room?
Tarin, you're currently just like holding the corners down so that they can lean over it.
Cool. Tarin. So hang on a minute. Excuse me. Could Oh, hang on a minute. Does Tarin know about the important item that they're after? Out of character knowledge.
I'll get you to roll a perception hearing check,
Okay.
just to say whether you heard it or not.
Okay. 9, 11 plus my perception 3, so I've got 14.
I'll say that you didn't really quite catch what Bhajiri and the captain were talking about.
Alright, okay. In which case, he's just gonna stand there silent, like watching the exchange.
Excellent. And Edric, you're cleaning the rifles and pistols you've collected. You believe it's been safe to move down, and you found your most favorite room, which is an armory. It's unfortunately largely not stocked because several weapons are missing due to the combat, and especially those that took a very, very long drop off the side. But you systematically begin to put rifles and boarding axes into their homes.
Yep, I'm basically taking stock of everything that we have, so that I have a list with every single gun, every single pistol, how many shots of black powder do we have, all that kind of stuff.
You work out that you've got about 50% of a full arsenal of rifles and boarding axes. As far as shot goes, you're criminally low. The damage done by both the attacks from your original cannon broadsides plus the damage done by Bingo seems to have burnt through quite a lot of the powder.
Okay, so 50% of a full arsenal, but low on shots.
Yep.
Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure that the door has a lock.
Yep.
Do I have the keys to the lock? Are they in the room, for example, nicely hanging on the key rack to the side or something?
You've spent the time going over the room meticulously, and the keys for the actual lock are not there.
The sound cut out. They aren't there?
They are not there, no.
Damn it.
You can only presume, or you can only hope, that they're somewhere on the ship. And not either on the other ship with a prisoner or over the side with one of those that didn't make it aboard.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to call for one of the crew members to come assist me for a second.
Yep.
I'm going to order him to take a message to the captain and to tell him that I need the keys to the armory if they are on the ship. And also I'm going to ask him to bring me a hammock.
Yep.
Are you going to sleep in the armory?
Yes.
I
Nice.
volunteer to sleep next to the treasure.
So you managed to catch one of the passing sailors, and you've sent him off with your message. And he passes the message on for the hammock to another sailor that's on his way down below decks as he rushes up. In very short order, you've managed to get a hammock delivered by a crewman from below decks who has been working at reorganizing everything that got absolutely shaken apart by the explosion below.
Nice. Thank you very much. That was quicker than expected. And with that, I'm gonna close the door again and hang up my hammock in the armory.
Yep. Bhajiri and Tarin, you're still looking over the map when a sailor knocks on the door, sticks his head in, and goes, "Excuse me, Captain. The gunnery chief below asked for the keys to the armory and the ship to be found."
That is a good idea. Bhajiri looks around. If he doesn't spot the keys, if he doesn't spot the keys within half a second, he's just like, "We'll get someone on that. Tarin, could you help?"
Sure, yeah, sure. yeah, I can do that.
Awesome, I'm trusting you. Good luck.
I think Tarin will head off in search of said keys. He'll scout the room that he's in first, obviously, and if he doesn't find them in there, we'll
Tarin,
go off in a thorough search.
I'll get you to do a perception check in your search. Neros is going to turn to you, Bhajiri, and go, "It's probably best that we get the engine room underway and get going."
Aye, that's very good. I will help with the engine room as well, just so that we have more numbers, getting it sorted, patched up, making sure we don't fall out the sky.
Neros chuckles and goes, "That part is definitely appreciated. I'll take the helm and steer us once we get the power underway."
Excellent. Happy flying. And Bhajiri's gonna chuckle, and he's gonna just stroll out towards the engine room.
You hear an "Aye, aye, Captain." Right, yeah, so Tarin, you got 19, and you got doubles?
So useful now. Yeah, I got 5 stun points. Where was this when the battle was going on?
And in the meantime as well, we'll get Bhajiri you to do a intelligence engineering if you've got it.
This is going to go well. This went surprisingly well.
Also, don't forget, if you do stunt and you don't have the talent that I named, there's actually a stunt that allows you to get it.
Well, I got 6 stunt points, and I got a total of 10. So, yes. I want to do the thing to get the talent thing, and the engine fix me do.
Let me just double check which one it was. Yeah, so that's resources at hands for 4 points.
In that case, I'd like to use resources at hand, and I guess as well, efficient search whilst I'm doing it.
Yep. So you go down to the engine room, and as you enter it, you see the first part of the problem very, very blatantly. One of those shots clean through the side of the ship actually managed to also go clean through the engine.
Ah!
You note that despite the damage to the engine, this is a very, very well stocked and maintained engine room, and there is a lot of tools and parts already in place for a combat vessel such as this to immediately begin repairs, pretty much by design, as these ships are usually required to be repaired while in the midst of combat. You don't waste any time, and you set straight through it, and you begin removing the damaged parts and immediately replacing those with the replacements that you can scrounge up from around the room.
I have a quick question about the engine itself.
Yep.
Is it a combustion engine?
It is basically a coal and steam powered combustion engine, yes.
In that case, Bhajiri is going to call Bingo Boom Boom. Now, Bingo Boom Boom's your name, right?
Aye.
So this engine, and Bhajiri points, it needs to make tiny explosions all of the time to keep us from dying.
Uh-huh.
Do you think you can make sure that forever this ship will make those tiny explosions?
I can try.
I'm trusting you to do this. I believe in you.
Only tiny ones.
Only tiny ones in the place where it's meant to, and Bhajiri's going to show exactly like the chamber that the explosions need to happen in. It cannot leave these chambers.
Okay.
But you will be doing a great job for everyone aboard.
I get silver.
Of course, you get silver for doing this and keeping us alive. If we die, you don't get silver.
Okay. I get hammock too.
Oh, of course you get a hammock. You can hear the explosions going all night while you sleep.
Yay!
I want Bingo Boom Boom to have like a little victory dance.
Like both his little arms in the air. With his little, well, he always has his mask on, so he looks like a little mouse. Yes, he's doing the channeling.
He's currently jiggling a little bit as he's doing it.
Oh yeah, jingling. Ching, 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 ching. Ching, 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 ching. Oh shit, my silver. Scrabble, 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 scrabble. Puts back in many pockets.
Continues dancing.
So yeah, I will attempt to. What are you talking about? There is more silver than that.
Just
Righty.
falling out of the pockets, that much silver.
You can make yourself a little nest to sleep on of silver.
Rightio.
I'm part dragon, you know.
Between Bingo and yourself, Bhajiri, you manage to patch up the engines pretty quickly. and you find a small hatch in the wall that opens up into a large storage room that is basically filled to the brim with coal.
It's like Christmas.
At Christmas, I always got coal. It was the happiest day of my life.
Rightio. Let me just double check that. I will get a intelligence roll, engineering if you have it, to get the engines actually fired up, bingo, without detonating yourself.
Okay,
This is when there's 3 ones and the ship goes down.
That's it, campaign over.
He's watching with, like, through his fingers, just like, oh no, oh no, oh no.
okay. Let's see what happens.
Bhajiri.
Well,
You basically reach into the little hatch and just rush bits of coal into the furnace, and then rush back, grab more coal, toss it into the furnace like a hyperactive hamster. Once you've got a reasonable amount in there, you light up a bunch of sparks from your flint and toss them in there with a bit of kindling and tinder to go with it, and spark a flame that very, very quickly starts roaring, and you close the furnace.
Run.
Turning a couple of knobs and pulling the right levers, the pressure in the furnace starts to build, and you hear the pistons start to clank up and down, and the engine starts to whir to life. Very, very faintly through your feet, you can even start to feel the thump of the large propellers that actually drive this ship forward, starting to spin and build up power, and the vessel starts to move.
Puts other thumb up too.
There is an ever slow, slightly growing whistling noise from the hole that's in the side of the ship in the engine room. Bhajiri, you breathe a sigh of relief at the fact that the engine room did not just detonate.
And with his little mask on, he does look like a giant mouse. So when he puts his hands up, he is that cute. He's as cute as Timmy.
My heart.
big flappy ears. He's dead cute. Don't take the mask off. It's not cute under there.
Rightio. It is 11:30. So did we want to leave it with you slowly making your way off to Port Marley with your new ship for the night?
We didn't explode.
I think this is a nice moment because we haven't died yet.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
true. That is true. Seems a good point to start next session as well.
Yep.
Oh, I do have one little itsy bitsy suggestion for the end, because after the ship is in order, or in order enough, and everything's ticking along nicely, Bhajiri will call the whole crew up to the deck for not a party, but a celebration.
But a party.
A gathering. A raucous gathering.
Yeah,
Love
a
it.
raucous gathering.
How much alcohol is on board the ship, Glyn?
I'm underage. Be careful of space cops.
Will there be dancing?
There will be so much dancing and singing
Well,
and
Tarin will 100% be there.
Ooh, Glyn,
Yep.
could I find something that I could quickly assemble to resemble a flute?
Yes, you can. It wouldn't take you very much effort using especially some of the tools that are still on the ship.
Nice. I'm gonna make a flute so that I can play music.
And as far as the alcohol goes, there's some barrels left, but quite a lot of it was right near the center of the explosion.
Oh no.
Oh.
In that case, I'm gonna keep close eyes on the cask of mead.
I'll just stick to my coffee.
Oh, Glyn, did Tarin ever find the keys?
Ah, yes, you were searching the ship.
Oh yeah, I need I need my keys.
You search high and low, and in the last room that you search, you find a bunch of clothing, and basically you realize that, and after initially going in thinking it was a laundry, that is actually a bedroom. And after throwing some very foul-smelling clothing around and rummaging, you find a tiny crate, and opening it, you find the personal effects of what used to be the Armory Master,
Oh,
including keys
brilliant.
and a small journal.
Ooh. Can I read the journal?
You may.
Do I see anything interesting?
I think we'll find that out next episode.
Oh, okay, fantastic. In which case, having found all of that, Tarin's going to head to the kitchens, rustle up some sort of meal for the party that Bhajiri is going to call.
And I think that's a really good spot to leave it, with the crew gathering in the mess.
Did I get the keys yet from Tarin? Because if so, I'd like to lock the arm before I leave it.
I will drop them off on my way to the kitchen.
Like, that would be a sensible thing, because Edric would not leave there unless the door was locked.
The two rooms are relatively close together, so Tarin wouldn't have to go too far out of his way to drop them off.
Nice.
Sweet.
Thank you, Tarin.
No problem.
If you ever need anything from here, just give me a heads up.
I will, definitely. I'm sure you'll be of much help.
Of course I will. What do you mean with that?
Well, I can't really fight, so I'll be counting on you.
These things practically do the fighting for you. These are a wondrous toy.
I'm
I'll
guessing
teach you
you didn't
someday.
see me with the cannon.
I'll teach you someday. Small scale cannons.
Yeah, sure. We'll go with that.
Uh,
And with that, I think I'll leave it there, because we're starting to lose
Fantastic.
players one after the other due to phone calls.
That's fine.
And
Definitely bedtime. So.
I'll leave it with everyone shouting bye to the recording if you feel like it. Otherwise, a good pirate R will do.
Bye.
Yarr!